Alright, we'll continue with the further videos on the power sharing. Okay, so we are basically discussing power sharing. Now, what happened or what were the steps that were actually taken which kind of irritated or which kind of led to a disbalance in the power or the entire structure social system of Sri Lanka. Okay, so majoritarianism steps taken in Sri Lanka. What were the steps that were taken? In 1956, an act was passed to recognize Sinhala as the only official language, disregarding all other languages. And we have seen the basically division of Sri Lanka in terms of languages. Okay, there were different languages basically. One second. Okay, so there were different languages on the basis of which there were differences. So Sinhala was regarded as the only official language and all other languages were disregarded. That was due to an act which was passed, and this was a severe blow to the sentiments of the people of other languages. Okay, Sinhalas were given special preference for recruitment to government jobs. While recruiting people or while recruiting in government jobs, a special preference or treatment was given to people who used to speak Sinhala language, because of which again there was a mounting dissatisfaction in the Tamilian community and other communities. Okay, Buddhism. Now we know that Buddhism. See, that's the reason I was trying to connect Buddhism with Sinhala. Okay, you would be wondering as to why we are trying to talk about other aspects of ethnicism. I told you that in terms of ethnic community, we either have language divisions, we either have caste, we either have religion, on all that stuff. But why are we, if you wonder, why were we mixing up the two? The reason why we were mixing up the two is because Buddhism is the primary religion of Sinhala people who speak Sinhalian language. So Buddhism was the primary religion for Sinhala community and was given special protection constitutionally. So people who were actually Buddhist were given a special protection constitution under the constitution of Sri Lanka. Now, increased feeling of alliteration among this. So what were the impacts basically? The impacts were that this increased the feeling of insecurity amongst the Tamilians, and this insecurity basically kept on mounting, and it kept on mounting till it actually led. So this was the first impact, that it increased the feeling of alliteration amongst the Tamilian community. Okay, and they all felt very much discriminated. They were all feeling discriminated by the policies that the government was adopting. Okay, so what happened due to all this, right? So the Tamilians felt that their political rights were being compromised. So the Tamilians felt that their political rights were being compromised. So this actually created a lot of feeling of resentment among the Tamilians, which is very much natural, because all the policies that were getting framed with regards to language, with regards to recruitment of people, with regards to the religion favorism, all this was primarily getting towards the Sinhala community. This was primarily supporting the Sinhala community. The entire government was supporting the Sinhala community in terms of the language, in terms of the religion, in terms of recruiting people in different government jobs. Okay, so all in all, the government was all out to support the Sinhala community, because of which the resentment in the Tamilians by and large started growing up. Okay, so what will happen now? The relation between the Tamilians and Sinhalas, the relation between Tamilians and Sinhalas were strained. So that's how the relation got strained between them. There was a conflict which started developing, a conflict of interest, a conflict of the fact that the other community is being supported and we are not. So these were certain strainful relationships that grew. So Tamilians, basically what happened, they launched a wide struggle, a huge struggle against the Sinhalas, demanding So Tamilians launched a struggle against the Sinhalas. This was a widespread, okay. They launched a huge struggle against the Sinhalas, demanding what did they demand? Demanding independent Tamil state. They call it as Elam, alright. They call it as Elam. Elam basically means state. They started demanding a separate state for the Tamilians, okay. So basically what is now this distrust, there was a distrust and discontent which was going, which was growing in the Tamilians and other communities as well, primarily the Tamilians, because they formed the majority out of the minority. So the minority community primarily was Tamilians, and there was a huge discontent and distrust that started evolving within them because of the different steps that were taken in order to suppress them. Okay, so this distress or discontent led to a condition of a civil war. What do we mean by a civil war? See, when two or more countries fight amongst themselves, we call it a war. But when there is an internal riffle that is going inside a country, when there is an internal conflict going between the different communities inside a country, when people are fighting within themselves, then it is called a civil war. So this is a civil war which started, the condition of a civil war started engulfing in Tamilian. And basically thousands of people from both the communities were killed. So there were thousands of people from both the communities who were killed. From both the communities lost their lives. They lost their lives. I don't know how many of you have heard about a terrorist organization which used to be one of the strongest terrorist organization in any country, and that is called the LTTE. This is called Liberation Tigers of Tamil Elam. Right now it's almost extinct, but at one point of time this was responsible for a huge bloodshed in Sri Lanka. Many presidents were killed, many of the political leaders were abducted and killed. So there was a huge strife that went on, and basically this caused even our Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was basically killed by an LTT attack when he was not a Prime Minister at that point of time. He was a leader of the opposition, and when he was giving or rather a lecture, or when he was actually giving a speech in Sri Perumbudur, which is located in the south of India, a massive bomb attack was launched, a suicide bomb attack was launched, and this was almost entirely directed and planned by LTT. The reason why this happened was because Rajiv Gandhi during his prime ministership had helped Sri Lanka to get out of this mess which is there, okay, to get out of this mess of civil war. If you watch a movie, there is a movie which is there by John Abraham, and that is called Madras Cafe. A lot of inputs you will get as to how and what was the scenario in Sri Lanka, how people were being mercilessly killed, how groups were fighting amongst each other, and how this huge terrorist organization LTTE actually was evolving as one of the major terrorist outfits in India, in the entire world. Okay, so this widespread discontentment which actually was there in the Tamilian community due to the suppressing of the Sinhala community actually led to a huge disbalance in the entire social setup of Sri Lanka, and this led to a civil war. So you see how the difference is, a country which has language differences. In Belgium, they actually shared the power equally, but this was suppression of the minorities by the majority community, and this led to a complete disbalance, and the entire country went into a civil war. So we will study more in detail. We will study more about the case studies that we are discussing here right now. I hope this makes things a little clearer. You can take a snapshot of the same. I will try it and make it more interesting with more examples. The case study that we will follow throughout this chapter is primarily on the differences. Okay. Thank you so much for your time today.